They didn't mean it. They've been under a lot of stress. That's just how they are. I probably overreacted. Listen to those sentences. Really listen. Because if you've said any of them recently about the same person, more than once you are doing something your own mind is designed to do automatically. And it's costing you more than you think. Here's what almost nobody tells you. When someone hurts you, there's the pain of the thing they did. But then there's a second thing that happens quietly, a few seconds later. Your mind starts building a case for the defense. It reaches for reasons. It softens the edges. It hands you an explanation that lets you keep the peace, keep the relationship, and keep believing the story you already had about this person. That defense you keep building isn't kindness. It isn't maturity. Most of the time, it's a mechanism, and it's protecting you from a truth you don't want to look at. So today, I want to take that mechanism apart, not to make you cold, not to tell you to cut everyone off. I'll be very clear that's not what this is, but to help you see the difference between an excuse that keeps you stuck and an understanding that actually sets you free, because those two things feel almost identical from the inside, and telling them apart might be one of the most important things you ever learn to do. Let's start with why. Because once you see the machinery, you can't unsee it. And that's the whole point. There's a concept in psychology called cognitive dissonance, first described by Leon Festinger in the 1950s, and it's one of the most reliable findings in the entire field. The basic idea is this: your mind cannot comfortably hold two contradictory beliefs at the same time. When it's forced to, it feels a genuine internal discomfort, a kind of psychological friction, and it will do almost anything to make that friction go away. Now watch what that means when someone you love hurts you. You're holding two beliefs. One, this person is good, and they care about me. Two, this person just did something that hurt me. Those two ideas grind against each other, and your mind, desperate to stop the grinding, reaches for the fastest available fix. Here's the part that matters. There are two ways to resolve that tension. You could update your belief about the person that's painful and destabilizing. Or you could explain away what they did that's quick and comfortable, and your mind, left to its own devices, will almost always take the comfortable route. It doesn't rewrite the person. It rewrites the event. They were tired. They didn't mean it. It wasn't that bad. The excuse isn't a decision you're making. It's your mind resolving its own discomfort and handing you the result as if it were a conclusion you reached. And there's a second force stacked right on top of this one, and it's just as powerful. Psychologists call it the sunk cost fallacy. It's the well-documented tendency to keep investing in something precisely because you've already invested so much in it. Years, history, shared memories. The more you've put into a relationship, the more your mind resists the idea that it might be hurting you, because admitting that would mean all of it was, in some sense, a loss. So you protect the investment by excusing the behavior, not because the behavior deserves it, because letting go feels like admitting you were wrong to stay this long. Put those two together, a mind that smooths over contradictions, and a mind that can't stand to waste what it's already spent, and you have a machine almost perfectly built to keep you explaining away the people who hurt you. It isn't weakness, it's wiring. But wiring you can learn to override. Now, here's where I have to be careful, because this is the exact point where content like this usually goes wrong. A lot of videos on this subject would now tell you that all explaining is bad, that understanding someone is the same as excusing them, that the strong move is to cut off anyone who hurts you and never look back. That's not true, and it's dangerous advice. So, let me draw the line as clearly as I can, because everything depends on it. There is a real difference between understanding and excusing. They look similar, but they do opposite things. Understanding is about them. It's you making sense of why a person behaved the way they did. And it's genuinely valuable, because people are complicated, everyone has a bad day, and not every hurt is a pattern. Understanding lets you forgive the friend who snapped once because they'd just gotten terrible news. That's not an excuse. That's proportion. Excusing is different. Excusing is about you. It's not really an explanation of their behavior. It's a permission slip you write to yourself. Its actual function isn't to understand them. It's to release you from having to do anything about it. And you can tell the difference by one simple test. Understanding still lets you set a boundary. Excusing removes the boundary entirely. Sit with that, because it's the whole video in one line. If you understand why someone hurt you and you still say that wasn't okay, and here's what I need to change that's healthy, that's maturity. But if your explanation ends with you doing nothing, changing nothing, and quietly bracing for it to happen again, that wasn't understanding. That was an excuse wearing understanding's clothes. But let's go one level deeper, because there's a question underneath all of this that I don't want to skip. If excusing hurts us, why do we cling to it so hard? And the honest answer is that the excuse is often protecting something more fragile than the relationship. It's protecting your picture of yourself. Think about what it costs to fully admit that someone close to you keeps hurting you and isn't going to stop. It's not just information about them. It forces a cascade of harder admissions about you, that you allowed it, that you saw the signs and stayed, that the story you told everyone about your marriage, your friendship, your family wasn't the whole truth, that you might have to do something frightening about it. The excuse spares you all of that. Every time you say they didn't mean it, you're not just protecting them. You're protecting the version of your life where everything is basically fine and no hard decision is required. That's why the excuses feel so necessary and why people defend them so fiercely when challenged. You're not defending the other person. You're defending your own peace of mind and the identity you've built on top of it. There's one more piece here, and it's the heaviest, so I'll say it carefully. For some people, this pattern didn't start in adulthood. If you grew up in an environment where love came mixed with hurt, where the people who were supposed to care for you were also the people who caused you pain, then excusing may not feel like a choice at all. It can feel like survival, because once it was. A child who depends on someone for everything cannot afford to fully register that that person is hurting them. So the mind learns, very early, to explain it away. And that reflex, built for survival in childhood, can quietly run the rest of your life if you never name it. If that's you, I want to be gentle here. The reflex made sense. It kept you safe once. It just may not be serving you now. And that's not a failing. That's simply something worth looking at, ideally with real support, which I'll come back to. So what do you do with all this? Let me be practical, and let me be honest about the limits of advice from a video. First, catch the excuse in the moment. The next time you hear yourself explaining someone's behavior, just pause and ask one question. Does this explanation end with me protecting myself, or with me bracing for it to happen again? That's it. You don't have to do anything yet. Just notice which one it is. Awareness comes before change, always, and most people never even get to the awareness. Second, separate the two questions that always get tangled together. Why did they do it, and what am I going to do about it are completely different questions, and the excuse survives by blurring them into one. You are allowed to fully understand why someone hurt you and decide their reason doesn't change what you need. Understanding is not a verdict. It doesn't obligate you to accept anything. Third, remember that a boundary is not a punishment. This is where people freeze, because they think setting a limit means declaring the person evil, or ending the relationship, or starting a war. It doesn't. A boundary is just information about what you will and won't accept. You can love someone and still tell them a behavior has to change. In fact, that's usually the most respectful thing you can do. It treats them as an adult capable of change, instead of a child you have to keep making excuses for. And fourth, the honest caveat, because I promised you one. Everything I've described lives on a spectrum, and where you are on it changes everything. A friend who's occasionally thoughtless is not the same as a genuinely abusive partner, and I am not qualified, and neither is any video to tell you which situation you're in or exactly what to do about it. If what you're recognizing as you watch this is something serious, if there's a pattern of behavior that frightens you, or that's escalating, please treat this video as the beginning of a thought, not the end of one. Talk to a therapist. Talk to someone you trust. Some patterns need more than self-awareness. They need real support. And reaching for it is strength, not weakness. So let me leave you with the reframe I think matters most. Stopping the excuses is not about becoming hard. It's not about deciding everyone who hurt you is a villain, or building walls, or cutting people off at the first mistake. The people who do that aren't strong. They've just found a different way to avoid the difficult work, by throwing everyone out instead of examining anyone. The actual work is quieter and harder than that. It's learning to hold two things at once without flinching. This person may have their reasons, and I am still allowed to protect myself. It's letting an explanation be true without letting it be an excuse. It's staying soft enough to understand people and firm enough to not disappear in the process. Because here's the thing the excuses were hiding from you all along. Every time you explained away someone else's behavior, you were quietly telling yourself that your own hurt didn't count, that their comfort mattered more than your truth. And you can keep doing that. Your mind will happily help you. It's very good at it. Or you can start, gently, to take your own experience seriously. Nobody's asking you to stop loving people, just to stop abandoning yourself in order to do it. I know this one might have landed close to home for some of you, so I'll just say if it did, that's worth paying attention to. If you're comfortable, tell me in the comments, what's an excuse you've caught yourself making on repeat? Sometimes just writing it down where you can see it is the first time it stops working on you. And if you want more of this, the psychology underneath the things we don't usually look at, subscribe. There's a new one every week. Take care of yourself. I mean that. See you next time.